Mayuresh Joshi is also with us. Mayuresh, good morning. Good to have you with us here. Thanks for your time. Any earnings that you would want to highlight, Mayuresh, which you found interesting, beyond expectations?
Morning, Prashant. I think out of the whole host of numbers that have probably come last week, Manappuram Finance did stand out. And again, I think the change in the business model is going to probably abet them in the long run. Again, I think what has come out from Chennai Petros today, and again, this is purely based on what numbers have come out, and it's not a buy or sell recommendation, but I think the numbers were very, very impressive, least to say. And again, I think if you look at the overall pie, I think a few of the mid-caps have done exceedingly well, whether that be mid-cap IT, whether that be mid-cap pharma. So again, I think one really needs to understand how the earnings matrix is stacking up, what kind of valuations they are demanding at this point of time. Yes, but a few of the mid-caps did stand out in terms of how they have delivered in terms of numbers.
Joga, Britannia, any thoughts? Again, very expensive.
In fact, we have coverage on Britannia. In fact, we have a very aggressive position on Bombay Burma, its holding company. It's surprising the way it has fallen yesterday, because I do agree the company used to post 30-35% growth in profit year on year, which has come down to 14%, but partly due to spike in taxes and fall in other income. Of course, there is also fall in the profitability as compared to what it was doing 1 year back. But the fact is that its volume is still growing in double digit, and it's also impacted by high sugar prices. But slowly they would be able to pass it on to the end consumers. And if monsoon is good, I am sure once again Britannia can pick up minimum 10% from this level.
Mayuresh, any thoughts on this one? Britannia?
Again, the stock has moved up substantially, Prashant, over the last few quarters. One really needs to understand that the kind of benefits that they received from input cost deflation, whether that be sugar, wheat, I think that was probably there in the margins, and the margins did expand over the last few years from 6-7% to around 13-14%. The management is very hopeful of maintaining margins around the current level, though you might see some amount of bump up happening in terms of prices going up, and that might take a toll in terms of the EBITDA performance. However, I think the entire story revolves around the premiumization that Britannia is basically following. And again, I think you look at the competitors. ITC has pushed very, very heavily in terms of both their capex on Sunfeast and the products allied to Sunfeast. Parle is still having a dominant market share in the glucose markets. They still got a huge amount of distribution network. So Britannia needs to ramp up its distribution network more or less in the central parts of the country, where the presence probably is a little bit lesser than what the competitors have at this point of time. But again, I think one really needs to understand that the stock has moved out. The multiples were at higher expensive valuations. But clearly, I think if you look at the story from a 2 to 3 year perspective, and if the stock corrects another 5-8%, I think it becomes a very good opportunity for long-term investors to start nibbling.
Mayuresh, Jubilant Foodworks is selling off right now. I mean, it's down about 4 or 5% or so. It typically comes up. There's no news of note so far, but it's cracking quite easily. I mean, this one, large moves. 1,055 is where Jubilant Foodworks is at now, 5% lower. Again, valuation's too high?
Yeah, definitely. That is why when some negative news come, they crack. Also some adverse news for the food industry in terms of some toxic in bread. So that's a negative for the retail outlets. So probably that also might have impacted the perception. But otherwise, as you said, valuations are highly stretched.
Valuations are highly stretched. I mean, the Nifty is absolutely flat. Choka, any thoughts on the market indices themselves?
This week we have square off in F&O. Then unfortunately the strong comment has come from the Fed members about a rate hike. So probably we'll have to go through the little pain of volatility with the downside bias till the Fed hikes the rate. I think once they hike the rate, the market would accept it and discount it and then start moving up. Perhaps by that time, the initial performance of monsoon also may be good as per the forecast. So in my view, from June end, I see some hope for the market to recover significantly.
Is anything changing in Manappuram Finance?
Choka? I think the result is slightly better, but I think all the performance is in price. in the long term, I continue to remain little apprehensive about these, exclusive gold loan companies because, as I've been saying, banks have got into it. Now today, banks like Karur Vysya, South Indian, CUB, they are all quite aggressive in gold loan. So many NBFCs also got into gold loan business. So in the long term, I firmly believe that it is going to be difficult for them to maintain this kind of growth.
Just normalization on valuations. I don't know about the valuation where it trades, etc. now, but last 6 months it's up 150%.
So, and it moves like that, and then it falls.
I've not seen it move like this for a long time. At least not on the way higher.
Yeah, you are right. 3-4 years back it moved. After that, fell very badly.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at some other stocks in the broader market. So Monsanto is up 5%. 2183 is where Monsanto is trading. Now, for retail viewers, I mean, they don't usually participate in these kind of stocks.
Yeah, there is one, you are very interesting. A lot of retail investors think that they look at the absolute price. So many people say that,
it's too expensive.
Too expensive. Unfortunately, they don't look at, the valuation. That's why they lose a lot of money in the penny stocks. So, but, Monsanto may be moving up because of the global news. But in India, I think Monsanto is slightly stretched because the fundamentals have gone down in the recent time. So I would not rush to buy Monsanto at this price.
But because of the global, so Bayer made an offer which was 20% higher than the Friday's price.
Yeah.
Bayer, by the way, in the US trade corrected meaningfully on concerns that it was maybe overpaying. So it's basically the reversal of yesterday's moves. I mean, yesterday's market action. Monsanto was down 8, it's up 5-6% right now. Is it likely to trigger anything here?
Possible. In my learning, what happens in India when global MNCs, go for such alliances, they have to give offer here also. And, these MNCs, normally the floating stock is so low. Sometimes, the tactical upside happens and the global companies are forced to offer a higher price. So purely on tactical game, one who can take a little risk and buy, because this happened many times in the past. If price goes to 2,500, then, a buyer in India would be forced to offer such price based on the 15 days or 6 months average price, whichever is higher. So from that logic, yes, those who can take a little risk can buy it.
Okay, so that is Monsanto, but it's risky. I mean, it's a punt basically.
Yeah, it's purely a tactical game, not
something to. I mean, there's no real rationale in that sense. Yeah. Piramal Enterprises, you've liked it for a while now.
Yeah,
it's
I liked
almost
it when
at
it was
1450.
So I was sold off. I mean,
okay.
I booked profits for my clients and we closed the call because it has run up 50-55% in a matter of few months. And valuation wise, I feel it's fairly priced.
I think, Choka, you're, extremely rigorous about valuations.
Certainly, short term we go through.
Usually we talk to people and they say, well, 1,500, it'll go to 2,000, 2,000 go to 2,500. Yeah. Keep holding the stock. But with you always pretty particular about,
because I was also grounded in the market a couple of times. So
it's a good thing. I mean, that's what we like about you in terms of a rigorous eye on where valuations are. And not
because
just
I have seen, like for instance, I just to share an experience, I bought Kemfab Alkali at 55 rupees. It came down to 4 rupee, in 2001-2. That 4 rupee was not justifiable. And including me, some of our friends also sold off for Kemfab. From 4 rupees, then it went to 400. So 4 was also unreasonable, 400 was also unreasonable. So a lot of learnings we have made. So definitely in the long term, you make money if you stick to the valuation.
But Piramal now too, I mean, how would, for something like Piramal where little is known in terms of what's the actual value of the subsidiaries, they're saying, for a couple of years now they've been saying that they're going to separate all the 3 businesses and list them separately.
Very interesting, you touched one point. If you permit me for 1 or 2 minutes, I'll explain. Most of the wealth creating ideas are lesser known. So in 99, when I wanted to buy Wipro, my dealer told me in Chennai, sir, you call me tomorrow, I am not able to look at the stock symbol on NSE. So in my learning, 99% of the wealth creating ideas are always lesser known. Sometimes they become boring stock, but you should have passions. And if you are confident of valuation fundamentals, you should remain invested to make wealth.
No, absolutely. And Piramal is turning out to be one of those cases.
Of course, it may run up a little more because they are talking about unlocking in terms of demerging the businesses. So the little potential could be there for in the medium to long term. But before that news came, I sold off.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Neyveli Lignite is jumping up about 5% right now. So I haven't seen Neyveli coming up as one of the top gainers in a while now. Future Enterprises is up about 5%. Tata Metallic, something that Choka has talked about earlier, is up 5%. Tata Metallic is up about 235 rupees or so. Let's put these names up, please. And then on the losing side, we've got VRL Logistics. I mean, it's limit down 20%, no movement at all. Jubilant Foodworks is down 8.5% now. Mayuresh, any thoughts on this one? Jubilant Foodworks?
No, Prashant, I think this has to be played in the right cycle, and what is happening with the QSR industry is that a lot of competition is brewing at this point of time. What this has entailed is that the SSS growth has remained muted, and is expected to remain muted for some length of time. With the kind of capex that they're following and the maintenance capex that they're expected to do, my own sense is that both on the EBITDA front as well as on the free cash flow generation, the company is going to see tepid numbers come through. So again, I think one really needs to look at how the valuations have panned out. It's not going to be a slow and steady recovery for the stock. It's going to be a very painful one over the next 2 to 3 quarters, to say the least. So in my opinion, again, I think the stock might underperform the markets from a medium-term perspective.
All right. I mean, a full 10% cut, Choka?
Not surprising, that is what we have been discussing, that when valuation comfort is not there. And,
but one thing is true with some of these heavy institutionally old names as well. They correct. How many times have we seen Jubilant Foodworks over the years get to 1,900, bounce right back to 13, 14, 1,500?
Yeah, I think the floating stock also very limited. When I say floating stock, I normally see what is in the hands of the retail investors. Because, if you exclude a promoter, institutional, because they have a greater influence, their trading makes big impact on the price. So if you net out that and then see the retail hold, that makes a big difference in the Indian equity market for tactical reasons. So therefore, it's a game for the traders rather than for fundamental investors.
Yeah. Okay, so that is the perspective coming in. Choka, any other stocks from your list?
Yeah, I can suggest one new stock, Vindhya Telelink. It has corrected around over 40% from the 52-week high.
Vindhya Telelink.
It has come out with very good results. It has posted 80 rupees EPS on consolidated basis. So the stock is trading little less than 8 PE and decent management, strong balance sheet. And also the value of investments in other group companies also give you a lot of comfort. So the medium to long-term investors can slowly accumulate this stock. I'm pretty confident that like Satellite Textile or RSWM, this also can give a decent return.
What does it do, Choka?
They are into cable, telecom cable. Recently they got into EPC for telecom business. So that has...
So they lay cables, they manufacture cables?
They manufacture cables and also they got into EPC contract business. In the last 2 years, that has given them a big boost in the revenue and profits.
Okay, Vindhya Telelink. Does the management come out and speak? We'll try and get them.
No. I don't know about that because normally I avoid speaking to the management.
Okay.
I do only secondary desk research.
Okay. Our job is to speak with management. So we'll invite the management of Vindhya Telelinks on and let's hope that they join us. Choka, thanks very much for your time. It's appreciate you joining in as always. Mayuresh, thank you for joining in. Great speaking with you as always as well. Take a quick break. We are back in 2 minutes. More markets and more stocks. Back in 2.